I'm thrilled to be with all of you, and Ray stole my story about being a resin hall director, but I also did, that was my first professional job. I came to upstate New York in 1984 and never left. I went to college, raised my family, and really loved being in upstate New York. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity at Delhi. I worked as a resin hall director, and before that I worked for Rehabilitation Support Services doing respite work right here in Delhi as well. So I got a real sense of the community back then, and am so excited to be back here with all of you now. I thought I would share a little bit about some of our key, we're calling it Delhi Driven, and some of the key things we're working on, and then sort of open up some suggestions and ideas that we have as we build relationships with all of you in the community. So one of the key things that was important as I took on the role was really developing a greater sense of shared governance, and really all people being involved in the conversation, in the decision-making processes that we were holding on campus. So we've expanded really the leadership table. So we've created lots more opportunity. We have a larger leadership team, plus we have a senior council, which brings in directors and coordinators, and really trying to do workshop and education and get more voices and opinions and perspectives as we build Delhi for the future. And that's really worked well. It's been great to get lots of people and ideas, particularly because another key area is our budget. So obviously, and I know all of you are probably aware, or in your own businesses, that budgets are very tight. So we are working really carefully right now to evaluate how we're spending money, looking at what the key issues are to make changes to impact so that we can become more fiscally responsible in the work that we're doing, as well as create opportunities to generate revenue, because you can't slash your way out of a deficit, right? You have to come up with ideas for revenue. And that's why we really want to build relationships in the community as well. Because how can we create situations that are win-win for both of us? We have students, the internships and mentorship are key for our students. And we're also looking at building micro-credentials and certificate programs so that we can help your businesses. If you have an idea or a need for your employees, we're happy to work with you through our continuing ed office to create opportunities to educate and build a workforce that we know we all need. Because we too are struggling, right? People leave and sometimes it's your best employee, right? So how do you replace that person with the skills the person leaving has? So any way that we can do those things, we're happy to work with you on those opportunities. We're also facing some challenges with some of our applied tech programs in space. So, for example, we have caps on some of our programs that we're trying to become creative in how we're offering the education. So if there's opportunities off-site for us to sort of work with you to offer courses or opportunities for our students in the workplace, we're looking at that as well, because it helps us take the students who we don't have room for if we can do something off-site. So we're looking at those opportunities as well, which would be, really I'm telling everyone, throw everything at the wall, because no idea won't be reviewed. We have a thought box that we have people putting in ideas for savings, for revenue generating, to really think outside the box. One of the things that we're talking a lot about is Bluestone and Riverview and our golf course, right? How do we use that to help tourism, help the chamber, help hospitality in the region as well? So really trying to think creatively. My dad is an entrepreneur. He has been for his entire life. So I have a little bit of that in me. And, really sometimes the state puts some barriers on us to do some of those things. So any way that we can think creatively and work with all of you, we would be happy to do that. And you know, people, I know some of my staff is reaching out to people already, so if you'd like to meet, just let us know. Some of the key things for the institution, we're working right now on our Middle States accreditation. So next week we have a visit with our chair, site chair, and then in the spring they'll visit campus for our reaccreditation, which is a very important part of higher ed, and you know, significant that we do well in that accreditation. So we're working on all of that now. Fiscal stability, of course. One of the key things that we're rolling out right now is called the Strategic Enrollment Management Program. And basically what that does is it takes key people on campus, really from all different aspects, to come up with ideas, strategies, goals, and then tactics to address issues around recruitment and retention. So we have, there's a, you know, the cabinet serves as the overarching group that will oversee this, and there's a steering committee, and then subgroups that work on recruitment and retention. What we're hoping through this process is that we'll identify key ideas to increase recruitment and also retain our students. And I think, you know, when we talk about internship and mentoring, when our students can build relationships with people in the community as well as the people on campus, I think it helps keep them here, right? When they know I have this concern or I need support with this. I met with a student recently who, you know, really is working so much, and then their gas bill was so high, right? So that they're missing class to pay their gas bill. So I'm trying to connect them with HUD. You know, how do we give them the support that they need? But if they don't know what's available in the community, sometimes they end up leaving school over a gas bill, right? So how can we work with students in the community as well? So that plan, one of the key things that we did early on, because of course we're trying to look for some low-hanging fruit, we put out a call to all faculty and staff to see if people would consider mentoring students this fall. And we had 70 faculty and staff take on students to mentor students this fall. So that's a great initiative. I think we'll do it a little differently next year because I think some of the students aren't sure why we're reaching out to them. But really having it set in the beginning so that we can meet the student as they walk in the door, I think will help us move forward. And any community members that are interested in getting involved in that, we'd love to have you. We're working on, we have it's called the Academic Program Planning and Assessment Committee, who is looking at really ideas for new academic programs, looking at our programs that are struggling, how can we build in marketing, what kind of opportunities do we have to build and reach out and increase the number of students attending for particular programs. So this committee was established in the spring while I was on campus in my previous role. And I think, you know, David serves on it. I think it's a great opportunity for us to look at market trends, really evaluate what the needs are for the future and start working on those programs now. So really, again, as community partners, your insight, I know we have a lot of our programs have industry boards that many of you sit on. This is great opportunities for us to get feedback from you on what you think, you know, the latest trends are, what you're seeing in your industry as a need that maybe we can help build a program to support, or a certificate, right? Whatever it looks like, how can we be of support? The last, but one of the most important things is we're working on our advancement. So we are, you know, certainly out on the road asking for people to support the institution. Any way, time, money that people can give back to the institution is really beneficial to support our students in scholarships and in different initiatives that we're trying to pull forward. So we're having an event at the house coming up for all our donors who, you know, work on campus, but we're also hoping to build out in the community as well to get that kind of support. So open up to questions. That's just sort of in a nutshell what our priorities have been.
I can start. I can always start. The idea of the space limitations on your programming, when you speak to places in the community. Can you give us a snapshot of what that might look like? So you're not really looking for generic space, you're looking for much
it's-
specialized space,
Yeah,
right?
so some of the programs that we have challenges with in terms of space, nursing. So we're doing outreach with some of the hospitals to create
Okay.
Academic
Which
experiences
would be
in
good for
this.
the hospital.
Yes, absolutely. So that's in progress.
Okay,
Welding, right? We have
Huge.
challenges with capacity in our welding labs. And, really for SUNY, we'd love to build new buildings, right? But it's just not the reality in terms of funding and where we're at. So how do we think about this differently? And is there a short-term solution that could help everyone with the people needing employees, as well as us having students that we're having to say, sorry, we can't fit you, which, that's a lot of money to leave on the table.
yeah.
I'm trying to think which others have capacity. Nah, not so much. There's a few of them that there's caps. Oh, electrical. Electrical has caps. So we're working with the faculty to be creative, like what can we do evenings, weekends, summer, what kind of opportunities are there? And if there's some space, I don't know. We're really trying to be as creative as possible.
Got it, thank you.
Jerry, did you have a
Jerry,
question?
what is the retention rate on these days?
Every program's different. So it's sort of a challenge to get a clear number on it. But it's like
It's in the
60s
usually.
on average.
Is that relative to the national?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty consistent. The reality is that the more you can save students and keep them here, the less you're, hustling to get more
Right,
students,
yeah,
right? So if really, once you have a student here, if we could create an environment that they're staying and they have the support to stay, it really, in the end, makes a huge difference. So, and if you break it down based on, income level and ethnicity and race and gender, then it's all over the place, and there are some concerns about that. So how do we make sure that we're giving people what they need to be successful? Because not everyone needs the same thing. So really trying to make sure we're aware of that and get those things in place. Because there's tons of support at Delhi, which I love. Coming from an institution where I didn't feel like we always had the right supports, there's tons of support, and it's just making sure the students are aware and are using the support that's there to help them through.
Not necessarily a question, but
Yeah.
more of a comment. And this was, I think, 2 years ago, we ran a summer intern program as well, just prior to COVID, so it might be 3 years.
Yeah.
So we recruited a nice young man out of your IT class. We still have him.
Yes, I met him. Yes.
So now he's recruited 2 others for us,
Great.
and they're still with us currently. And through the same intern class, we had a young lady that came to us, and she recruited for us as well. So it's not just this, they become your employee, but they also become a great asset for you because their connection to that campus is still there.
Absolutely.
So when we need someone, we're like, who do you
Right.
have?
Yeah.
Who do you have? And it's quick, it really is, and they're good quality kids, they really are. And he's decided to stay, and now he's moved his parents here.
Yeah.
So it's been a great win for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good kid though, like him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I met him
So,
recently.
yeah, so
Yes, awesome.
not just good employees, but good assets as well for the recruiting tools.
Definitely. And that's the thing, is that we have a number of programs that people are knocking on our door for students that we don't even have enough students to give them, right? So how do we build that as well? So we have a new person overseeing enrollment who is really, doing everything possible to make sure that we bring in as many students as possible this fall, which has been pretty exciting, some of the things that he's working on, so, and his team. We had an open house this weekend, and 240 students, I think, were there, so really busy. The students this fall have been so engaged. They're out, they're going to events, really involved. So the feel on campus is much like it, felt prior to, that thing we all had to do. Or still deal with. So, yeah.
I was wondering about your relationship with downstate and New York City as far as recruiting students and also relationships with employers and whether there might be any way to have more students coming from there, maybe more employers would come here or make relationships.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we just added this summer a recruiter back in New York City. So there's somebody down there doing the recruiting, which is a huge, was top priority for us to get that back in place. And the person is phenomenal. So much energy and has gone to a ton of fairs and schools. Some of the things that we're building out right now are articulation agreements, really cleaning them up and seeing what the opportunities are, and a lot of them are downstate that we're looking at the high schools and also community colleges to make those agreements that then people know you can come here, and this is the sort of the agreement that's in place. The other thing which is interesting is we're working on an agreement, a workforce development agreement with some restaurants downstate for our students. Well, they're going to come up, recruit, and really some great opportunities for our students in some pretty nice restaurants. So we're working on all those things because it's important.
Just to follow up on that, is transportation an issue between the city and Delhi?
There's a bus that comes to campus, so I think for some students the expense, of course. There's always
Is it a campus bus or
No,
is
it's
it
a
trailbus?
Trailbus.
Which, yes, it doesn't run that much.
Yeah, well, we would like them to stay on campus too. So, sometimes when students go home a lot, that's when they don't stay, right? So you do want, you want students to stay on campus and be, involved, and the more they're involved.
We want the trailways to run one way.
Just to us.
You can go down at Thanksgiving.
Yes. But yeah, there's research, students who go home that first weekend, it's almost, they're gonna struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, try to do enough over the weekends to keep them around.
I would imagine for many of them, it's a cultural shock.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge shock.
Yes, yeah.
Can I offer just an
Yes,
observation?
yeah.
So this spring, I went back to work after 6 years of retirement, and I hadn't been a school counselor since 1992. And I was a school counselor for 10 weeks in a local school. And not much has changed. Kids still need what they need. They needed when I was there, but they're not getting it. So this is to all of you guys. I don't know what your comfort level would be, but one of the things I noticed was the shock of me sitting with an 18-year-old teaching them federal financial
Yes.
aid forms, because for a lot of reasons. Their parents didn't have the capacity, the interest, or the language, because we are more diverse.
Yes.
And I found that to be appalling, because I can assure you, my kids never had to worry about that.
Right.
That was my job, and Bill's job. So I just really, I really think that we have another transition piece that communities could do a good job helping with if they understood what was actually happening in their schools. And that is the bridge to get them to you.
Yes.
Like, these kids were great kids, they wanted to get there. And one of them was a really good soccer player, I wanted her there. But I watched the struggle. And a community-based
Yes.
connection would, and I can't say enough for the people of Delhi, and I'd call them and they would be right on the phone with me, walking me through things. It's been a while. And I just really felt like if there were people in the community who understood how big a bridge that was, just to get them in the door. I know people are going to be there to welcome them warmly when they get there, but just getting them there, it was tough.
Yeah, we just actually talked about this, and this would be a great thing for the higher ed committee either. At the most recent president's meeting, that if all students, and some states do this, where the students are required to fill out a FAFSA as a high school senior, because so many students think they can't afford to go to college. And if they do the FAFSA, for one, there's community colleges near them where they would pay nothing. They would just be able, so they would probably get some money back. And we have a high population of Pell recipients on our campus, and they struck, you know.
It was daunting for them.
And sometimes they, you know, the email, we tried to, when I met with students this summer, really instill that if you get an email from financial aid, go directly to financial aid, because if they don't sign the paperwork, or, you know, they can get to the end of the semester and they don't get their money because of just a glitch in, you know, signing off on the promissory note or whatever that is, you know, the issue is. But if in New York State we had every student required to do a FAFSA on the way out of high school, I think it would help higher ed and help families, because I don't think people even realize the money sometimes that they're leaving on the table.
I think it's a good role mentoring wise for the banking community. Like every community has a bank.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of where my brain went, to be partnered in that process.
Yeah. So,
Just an
yeah,
observation.
that FAFSA is a huge challenge for many of our students. I mean, I know how hard it was with my kids, right? But getting the documentation that you need, they don't always have access to that.
I'm a CPA, and many of my clients hit me up at that time of year, you know, what goes in this particular box? You know, I mean,
Yes,
it's not easy.
No.
It's really not.
Yeah, because I think
What
they
language
think
is this in?
I think they thought they made it easy by linking it to your tax IRS, and you
Right.
can get your tax stuff all filled into it, but
Until
you
there's a
have to
problem with
know,
the parents'
right,
tax stuff.
right, exactly.
Right.
It's definitely complicated.
Yeah.
So,
Can I add something?
yes.
People in my profession, financial planners, they're skilled in that whole area and they're underutilized.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just piggyback on all of this, because I own student rentals. We have one student in particular who still hasn't paid all of her rent. And the big challenge was that she couldn't figure out how to, she couldn't Venmo it for whatever reason. And so we went down this rabbit hole of, do you have a checking account? She said, yes. And I said, can you write a check? And she said, how do I get that?
Right.
How do I get them?
Yeah, where are checks?
Right,
true.
like how do I get them? And literally, she had to go home. She went home last weekend, and her father wrote her a check for part of it.
Yeah.
But like we still haven't figured out how to get the money from wherever it is. I don't know. She even
Right.
tried like some kind of credit card thing, and it was hitting our account to like test the account. I mean, it just
And that-
figuring out how to
Yes.
get the money out.
Yeah.
So
And they don't use checks.
No,
they don't.
I know
They
I
don't.
have 3 boys, and I mean, it's
Right.
just not,
Which is
they're like a
exactly.
check,
Right.
I've had my sons leaving checks from grandparents on their desk, like it's gonna
like what did
turn into
What
money.
is this?
You have to put this in your account. So
I'm glad you
it is,
mentioned the Venmo, because I don't do that.
I do.
But-
I
And apparently I need to, but the other glitch I saw was the technological glitch. So, and that glitch was my weakness. So the kids could go right in and do, oh yeah, open your account.
Yeah.
Like they could do all that piece, but understanding how it all comes together there's that technological gap that was there too, so.
Well, it's sort of like the high school's cutting, you know, or middle school's cutting home ec, right? And now they're going back realizing, wait a minute, we can maybe we should call it something different, but we need these life skill sort of courses for people because there is value to it. So.
I have a question about the internship program idea. I'm wondering if you have any type of training in place for the businesses that are interested in doing the internshipping, because cute story about what you're talking about with the checking account though. In my daughter, she just graduated from integrative neuroscience from Binghamton University, so very proud. But she has always had a job since she was 14, and I also have a message for the senator too when it comes to paying taxes on her scholarship money, because that's something that we have to do something about. anyway, she had all of these checks, and she went off to college, and I was taking my desk out of my office, and I see all these checks, and I went, because I know, I'm thinking they're stale dated. So I texted her, here's all these checks. She's like, oh, Mom, I'm all over that. You know, she electronically deposited them with a picture on her phone months ago. She goes, you can throw them away. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shock you. So they are many times well adept. My message concerning the financial aid is, you know, I'm from the area. I'm very grateful for where I'm at this point in my life, and I will tell you that it was a story to get here. However, most of my children's life, we were at or below poverty line. My kids worked very hard and are doing really well. Both of my children in their entire undergrad years had to pay income taxes because their scholarships and their little sideline job that they had to do, because I couldn't throw them $100 every time they came home, was taxed. So every year we had to pay income taxes on that money. And that is not an incentive. That is not an incentive to do better. That is not an incentive to stay in the area. That is not an incentive. So we have to look at that. But back to the internships. So someone mentioned a culture shock of students coming into the area. For sure. Sometimes I'm in a culture shock being from that area. Are we helping people? Are we helping the people that are opening their doors to these internships? Because what you don't know, you don't know.
Absolutely.
So sort of my skill set is organizational psychology, and just understanding and opening up that opportunity for people to understand that there are gonna these young adults that are coming in have a great deal of skill sets and gifts to bring, and they're gonna be different than what you're used to a lot of the time. They're gonna look different, they're gonna act different, they're gonna wear their clothes different, and are we helping those
And they
offering
speak
that
of
training?
different language.
And they speak a different language, right?
Yeah. and that's
Yeah,
what we can
so
do.
I'm wondering if we've looked at,
Yeah. I think it depends on our programs, but
Gotcha.
that's definitely something that we could think about, yeah.
I just have a quick question too. Has there been any forethought onto, you know, after you have the internship, you want them to stay, right? That's the idea, that the company is investing this time to hopefully retain. But living around here is kind of hard because there isn't a lot of housing. And that is something that we're struggling in our area, is trying to attract the right people, but yet at the same time, how can you build a family if there's not a home?
Right.
So has there been any discussions or forethoughts or plannings or ideas to help, you know, businesses to participate in this program with the idea that there'll be something they can live at?
Do you have an answer to that?
No. Well,
Anybody?
I mean, probably not, but
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of internships, I was thinking with, like electricians and, I mean, it seems like there's a certain number of vacant houses and that are kind of dilapidated. I mean, could there be internships around that? But I don't know where the funding would.
Right.
I think there are in your building program, aren't
Yeah,
there?
that we typically do some rehab and
Okay.
work locally, but it's one class, you know, it's not, we don't have enough people to do,
Yeah.
Scale.
and
Right.
people cover the cost, you know, there's costs that have to be
Right.
covered,
Yeah,
so.
that's.
But the housing issue is a huge challenge. It's a challenge for us with employees as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're thinking about some ideas, but nothing is, you know, actually sticking yet. But I think there's an opportunity for sure for someone to build some affordable housing in
Yeah,
Delaware
and that's
County.
always been a priority, you know, when we talk about public policy, which is what housing really is in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And a college is not,
No.
is limited and not able to do that. And that's some of the things that we're continuing to be focused on. And some of that requires some shifts in local land use and codes and the like. That we've been hammering at for the last few years without a lot of success, but we're going to
Right.
continue.
And as our resin halls become more full, you know, you run out of options on how to support people moving to the area, even temporarily.
This is really a question for the whole room. on this subject of housing, you know, if we go back many years, there used to be company housing, you know? And does anyone know anything about the history of that, why it stopped, why we don't have that, and could we ever have something like that again in a place like Delaware County?
We've had those conversations with some of our larger employers about that idea, and there's, COVID has, you know, we're walking down this path and all of a sudden we're walking out here.
Or here.
So, we're circling back and starting those conversations. There's been some change in leadership among some of our larger employers, and we'll see as you know, those changes are fairly recent. So we'll see how
But
those things
there's
progress.
some interest and openness to this idea?
Yeah, but it's a matter of, you know, often those larger employers are not based here. I mean, it's not a sports field, it's not a car company. It's a company that is based in another country, and to show those kind of results it just takes longer. It just takes longer.
As the problem persists, I can't help but think that we won't be able to display the return on investment that they would need to see.
Yeah.
And that's, but it's so complicated, right?
Well, it is. And I want to make sure we have some time. And Mary, I hope you're going to stick around a little bit. So if folks have some questions for Mary specifically, she'll still be here. But thank you so much for the information. And now I get to turn this on. Or maybe in a second, I get to turn it on the center. As a 1983 Delhi alumnus, give you the floor for a few minutes for those who don't know who you are, introduce you. With redistricting, some folks may not know Senator Peter Oberrocker.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for a very short introduction and talk today. So I am Senator Oberrocker. I have hit the lottery in redistricting in the fact that now I will represent all of Delaware County. Whereas before, it was split between myself and Senator Martucci, who I've served with in the Senate. So I'm extremely excited about that. The continuity and the issues that I see are basically county-wide. So it really helps me. Some interesting dynamics, I think, is the term I'll use. Sitting on education committee and higher ed gives me a lot of what I've heard today. The energy is the term I'll use to look at where can we bridge. You know, there's so many silos in Albany. So education committee doesn't necessarily talk to higher ed, who doesn't talk to who doesn't talk to health and so on and so forth. So with that alone, what I've heard here today has actually started the business side of my brain, I'll use, to see if there's something that we can start to look at when it comes to these internships, when it comes to workforce development. As someone who kind of grew up in a trade, I understand that system, it works well. You always have a trade to kind of come back on, but there needs to be this shepherding, is the term I'll use, through that process. So I'm looking forward to actually sitting again, God willing, making it through this next election, sitting again on education and higher ed, and working as a conduit between the two. What brought out here today was really interesting. There's never an easy answer. Everything is so interconnected. One of the issues that I'm seeing in the new district really has to do with landlords that have leased out. They're saying, I'm done. The COVID has kind of, unfortunately, tightened up even the housing market even more. So there's another issue of how do we bring back, or how do we reestablish in some of the landlords' minds that this is a viable position to be in again. So there's a lot of these things that go around that are interesting. I am a businessman as well, and I'll use the term a semi-retired businessman, which is kind of a nice thing to throw out there at this point. Back in 2007, I started a company called FormTech Solutions, where we do research and development and product development for food companies. So I'm using my education that I got from Delhi when I graduated in '83, and I'm still kind of working in that arena. And we had spoken about some of the opportunities that I would like to bring to Delhi in that workforce development side of things as well with our company. We have contacts in the major food companies out there, so it would be an interesting dynamic to see if we couldn't, I'll use the word, create some diamonds in the rough over here at Delhi for that. Being a businessman, I know the frustrations that you all go through. I see them all the time. A real quick story just to kind of put it into perspective. We moved our company from College Station, Texas to Schenevus, New York in 2017 before I ran. And I add that because some people like it. Two things that became very apparent. Number one, when we moved to Schenevus and put our corporate office there, first business to come into the town of Maryland in almost 30 years.
Wow.
Exactly what I said, wow. Second, when we filled out our forms to go from a corporation from Texas to New York, filled out the forms, sent them up to Albany, got a response back, or excuse me, a lack of response back as to our status. So I reached out to the Department of State. I said, I'm the CEO. What's the status of our application? They waited a minute, come back. It's not filled out correctly. Now, I'm not that smart, but I figured I could figure that application out. I said, what was it? It's not filled out correctly. They wouldn't tell me over the phone, which I thought was interesting. I said, listen, I'm 58 minutes away. I'm going to drive up. We'll get this taken care of. Drove up. I think it was on the 7th floor, Department of State. Walked in, had to wait 45 minutes. Finally got this individual, got my file. They opened it up. And I said, so what wasn't filled out correctly? And it says FormTech Solutions, Inc. Yes. There's no period at the end of Inc.
No.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
So I said, come on, seriously. Now, what, in the most serious face I've ever seen, she says, I am dead serious.
That's disgusting.
I asked, I said, you mean to tell me you could, no, it's an official document, we can't touch it. I took a pen, I put the dot at the end of the ink, at the end of the ink, they look at it, they say, yep, everything's good. Now for $485, we'll expedite it. That tells you what we are up against in New York. Now you wonder why we have an exodus coming from New York. So a lot of what we talked about today, and a lot of what I hope to foster, especially in my 51st Senate District, is the correction of that. We need to create the environment. First, we need to stop the flow, the outflow of people coming from upstate New York. There's no doubt about it. We need to stem that, and then we need to create what we're talking about here today, anchors for keeping folks here. And it's the young folks, like we said. Diane brought up some really good points there. You know, we have to, I was raised in a German family, in a German household with what I call a German work ethic. If my dad caught me looking at the clock, he would tell me, why are you looking at the clock? Your work's not done. I can imagine with some of the workforce that I had interviewed lately for ours, and I kind of harken back to my dad. And when I'm being asked questions of like, well, how much vacation time, and I can't work weekends, and those type of things, and it's an internal battle in my head to kind of get past that. But I have to get past that. It is a new world, and that's something too that really does need to come out. You're absolutely right. So I really think that we can, yes, we can.
I'm just so curious what your business is that you moved from College Station to.
So it's we do food ingredients and product development for food companies.
So it could be anything.
So it can be anywhere, exactly. In fact, we do business actually internationally, which is always a source of interest amongst our locals in the town of Maryland, that a corporate company is doing. We do business in Europe, South America, Thailand, all over. And here we are located, and they don't even know, they really don't know what we do. Is interesting. But yes, we're very fortunate to be able to. Actually, our business model mirrored up with COVID. perfectly, because we do a lot of remote. Anyway, so I'm excited. And I guess is what I want everybody to say. I'm excited about being able to work with Ray and work with my friends at Delhi. And we were talking about, getting the word out. I think I'm going to be, I hope to be, a good advocate and maybe an even better salesman for getting folks to come to my alma mater. Because I can tell you, it has done me well. It has done me well. Also, so that's the end of the pitch. I just wanted to, again, say thank you for the opportunity. And this is even more advantageous because they always say a good politician never lets an opportunity go by. Or a crisis, but this isn't a crisis. This is one of the good things that I get a chance to do. I don't know if we have somebody here from the Handle Inn that I could bring over here. So back in September, I was to come out and give some of my Senate recognition awards. And due to not feeling well, I guess I would say, I was not able to make it. But I am here today. And if everybody just give me this quick moment, I would like to bestow upon the Handle Inn congratulations. And it gives me great pleasure to extend my best wishes on your recipient of the New Business Rising Star Award. And this is given under, of course, my hand, and it's a Senate recognition. So if I can do that, I would like to just bestow that.
I will say, I'm just a chef here. You guys see me here on the chamber board as well.
Just a chef. I was just going to say just a chef.
The other guy you saw running around is Dave Kovac. That's the owner who, if you were at that awards dinner, he had a really nice little speech about how he bought this building, not knowing what it was. Really? It was like, oh, it's COVID, let's get an investment upstate. He's from Albany originally, but lived in Brooklyn for a long time. And then he realized how special this place was for everybody, and was like, well, I guess we're gonna have a restaurant, maybe I could lease it out. But what if someone else runs a restaurant and they do a bad job? I'll be upset. If they do a good job, I'll be jealous. So that's why this exists. So I'll make sure he.
Thank you.
Yeah. He has another full-time job, so he's off on a computer somewhere.
Great. Again, thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you all, and God bless America.
And the senator will be sticking around, so if you have some questions, but I want to make sure that if anyone else, you're right, you don't look at the clock until the work is done, but I always have to look at the clock and honor the commitment that you all made to be here till 10, coming up on that witching hour. One of the things about SUNY Delhi always that has been a hallmark since I've been associated with the institution since the mid-1980s was that idea of teamwork and outreach into the community, and it's nice to see that attitude back. I just alluded to the idea that the fact that I'm on the College Council, and I'm thrilled to be on the College Council. Ed Griswold with Integrated Financial Partners is the head of the College Foundation, so that outreach continues into the business community. Couple minutes, anything that anyone has that you just want to, here's your time to brag.
Oh,
You're harvesting, right?
I'm always bragging, yeah. I'm Joanne from Ravensview Genetics. So we are a cannabis farm in Delhi. And we're in the middle of harvest. As everyone up here knows, it's getting cold. And we're racing against the frost and the snow to get our plants indoors before they die. We're about 2/3 of the way through, and every day we're pulling people on the farm. So if you know anyone that wants to work, the requirement is they have to be over 21 and trustworthy. And that's it. So send them my way or let me know. And thanks.
Ken, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to say something.
Well,
besides just adding fiber to your diet.
That's my catchphrase. So, anyways, talking to the senator here, we just missed him in his territory by literally that much. So we're continuing to build. We're in a Connect America, or not Connect America, but American Rescue Fund build out right now. So we're building some roads that got left behind for whatever reason, such as Shaw Road out in Courtright. We're building that road out. We're also connecting a couple over toward the Sydney area. So that, we're trying to connect Delaware County from end to end. So that's what we're still doing.
And beyond, and beyond.
And beyond.
And-
Right.
and-
We are in Skenevis, we're in Maryland, we are in Worcester, and I never knew there was a town up there called South Worcester in Charlottesville. I never knew there was.
And Butts Corners.
Butts Corners.
And I know, and the senator is too honest of a guy to make this request, but if you can, just swing that map just a little bit.
As the ranking member of Internet and Technologies, I do not have broadband service at my house.
You would score some major brownie points. If there's no other.
I got one more.
Oh, Jen?
Just one bragging thing. The village of Margaretville, Tuesday evening, passed a tobacco-free outdoor policy that so there's a new state law that bans smoking in almost all parks. It's a fairly confusing law because it makes exceptions here and there. But the village of Margaretville decided to expand it to include no vaping of cannabis and tobacco on all their village properties. And so again, like that policy just means you can't use it on those properties, but you can use it other places. So anyway, we were happy that they did that.
Great. One last.
And we were remiss by mention candidates, so we're having our Halloween party Friday the 28th, which you already see our decorations. Like we don't mess around, and I'm sure there's more. Every day, there's more. So Friday, October 28th, 8:30. Costume contest is at 10. Last year we had amazing costumes here, really. And there's gonna be a DJ too. So and there'll be some fun menu stuff. You can come for dinner and then stay a little later.
Great.
Great.
And also don't forget we're open Sundays and Mondays. So 3 on Sundays, 4 on Mondays till 9. So you can get dinner Sunday and Monday in Delaware County. It doesn't matter.
Oh, one other announcement. I wouldn't be able to go home if I didn't mention this. Our friends at the Walton Theater have a program coming up. I have some posters. If anyone would like to take and put these up in your place of business, please do that. It looks like it's going to be another fabulous concert at the Walton Theater. So those are right there behind me. Thank you all for joining us this morning. It's a couple minutes after 10. Like I said, I want to honor your commitment that you make to be here with us this morning. Got a lot of things coming up: internships, mentorships, professional headshots, lots of things. Next month we'll be back here again on the 3rd Friday of the month. Mitzi Sackett is going to be our featured speaker. She's going to talk about some of the services at the Cancer Services Program through Bassett Healthcare and how you may be able to incorporate some of those services that their department, their program offers into your employee benefit program. So that'll be next month. I look forward to seeing you again. Remember, we really are stronger together. What Lillian and I do is impossible without your support. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, you continue to re-energize us and make sure that we continue to work on track, working toward your benefit. So thanks for joining us this morning. See you at something soon. We got a lot of things.